9 months into it. Normally this takes a couple years to get to where we are, and we're in at 9 months. I'm a private company. I got no backing. I'm it. I am it. And so I'm a lot more focused on making this happen now. And for better or for worse, you know, it's been hard on Utopia and they've stepped up, but, you know, I'm kind of passionate and I'm sorry that they are being pushed, but the other side is we're going to get our fiber in and we're going to get lit up and it's going to be great.
I think that is the beauty of what we do here at Utopia is we don't drink our own Kool-Aid, if you will, too much. There is always going to be something to work on. There's always going to be, where can we get better? Where can we pivot? Because in this industry, it is changing so rapidly. And Cassie, you're not even from here. I mean, you moved to Utah not too long ago. You love this product, and it's great to see that.
Like, Utopia is a product, but it's also a cause. Like, having access to good internet that's why I love working here. Like, it's something you can believe in, like something I believe in that everyone should have.
Utopia is revolutionizing what infrastructure looks like. We talk about airports and saying, well, that's the city's responsibility to build those things. That's exactly what we do. Utopia puts in the infrastructure, almost the fiber highway, if you will, for private entities to run along those lines. The city puts in an airport, but lets Delta, United, Southwest run out of there. That's exactly what we do. I know that the city's built this.
Numerous complaints were coming to us about the lack of service. Their frustration with not having access to real broadband. The incumbents were very much oriented toward a cherry-picking approach, and they were willing to make commitments to come into the communities, but only in certain areas, mostly business areas, where they could reap a profit. When we initially started out, we didn't know what we didn't know, and so we relied very heavily on outside consultants to advise us as to technology and marketing and so forth. They didn't have enough knowledge to really guide us in those next steps that would come. The other thing that we knew would happen was the reaction of the incumbents, including the legislature. So we started to get questions and flack, concerns expressed about why cities in Utah were doing this from people in our own delegation. It was political. And so we had, even with our own ranks, some of the cities began to back out of this. The whole thing was very close to collapse, and there were all kinds of people predicting that's exactly what was going to happen.
I remember going out one of the first few months of this job, and they looked at me and they decided to tell me how Utopia shouldn't be in this space, that it's government overstepping its bounds, that what was happening was just socialism at its finest. I mean, they said everything to me, and I'm looking at them going, I just wanted like a smoothie.
There are a few key cities that said, no, we are not going to walk away from this.
Building out the fiber network in West Valley City and in the Utopia cities was a lot of work. Took a lot of effort and foresight, took a lot of stick-to-itiveness.
I sat on a futon for my first 3 months of working here at Utopia. Not a great futon. My back really hurt after that experience. The computer barely worked. There were times where they said, well, we don't know if we're going to get paid right now, this week, but we probably should. Our brand was so toxic. And for the past 12 years, we have had to turn this around. And the turnaround doesn't happen overnight. Believe me, you can't just put out a new logo. You can't just put out like a new t-shirt and this changes, right? It takes a long time.
We would see these incremental gains, and we're building out the footprints, and we're getting more financially stable, but it's a slow, hard grind for sure.
I never would wear anything with Utopia out when I first started because people would tell me how they felt about it, and not in such a positive manner. I don't think I ran into one person that told me how much they loved my company. Now, I always joke that when I wear something with Utopia on it, people are like, when can I get it? When is it coming to my neighborhood? And it's been a really beautiful thing to see the transition.
Utopia came into the scene probably 2 years before. And so I met Roger and Kim, and I enjoyed the company.
Every operational partnership has started because people are coming to us for advice. They said, you run an open access network and we just need help.
I did a lot of research online. I have a board that I have to report to. I looked at all the failures that were out there, because lots of fiber companies have failed. And I looked at the very few successes, outstanding successes there were, and decided that this model was, as perfect as you might get.
And that evolved of us bringing our financial partners, bringing our engineering partners, bringing everything to the table.
We got C3 status so that we could do a tax-exempt bond. First one in the nation. We started construction in late March, and today is kind of the culmination. We're going to light our first area. You have to understand from my perspective, this is so exciting I can hardly stand it. I love it. It's great.
You need to understand who your stakeholders are. They're not always going to be the same. In our case, it's cities. So our stakeholders are mayors and councils, and those people are accountable to their constituents. If you go ask these communities, they're not served. These cities that we work with, they're trying to figure out, well, why are we in this?
Idaho Falls is one of those fast-growing cities that I call it the big city exodus is what's moving to Idaho Falls. Because we had a need to build high-speed fiber optic networks for the electric utility, actually. And so we needed to connect up our substations and generation plants. And it made sense also to connect in the network for the rest of the city. So a lot of businesses in the community were on our network. They were saying, hey, how do we get this kind of service and connectivity at our home?
When I was first elected, it was this new idea that a power utility could offer fiber. And it was even a little bit controversial at first.
Fiber, like the stuff you put in your cereal, or what are we talking about here?
Most users used a particular service provider, and then there was a few homegrown, smaller companies that were available to you. But the reality is, they all had issues with reliability.
And they said, well, we want to bring this to homes. How can we do this? So we had a lot of meetings of what does this look like? What do you want us to do? What can you do?
Being a not-for-profit, it's all about service and making sure that we're providing service throughout the community. We were already in the broadband business, already in the fiber optic business, so we didn't need, a ground-up build. They had the expertise in the open access networks.
Idaho Falls and us are very much governmental agencies, so we understand that this is us just mutually working together to help better each other.
And so it really helped accelerate us.
We have businesses opening every single day here, and Idaho Falls Fiber is a huge part of that.
How do you explain it, of what the difference of these speeds are and why they need this kind of connectivity?
Really, anything on our platform is to me, is gonna be an upgrade from what they currently have. I've talked to a customer yesterday that they were getting 1.3 megabyte download, and he was just like, I can't do it. Like my work won't allow him to do it. His leisure time won't allow us to do it. So it's like a necessity for people to have this internet. So where we can provide fast, quality internet, especially to rural areas, to me, that's where it's like you're giving the little man like a hand in the game here,
We're trying to operate the city offices, and I tried to do a webinar, and I could either watch the webinar or do phone, but I couldn't do both.
You're trying to get on the internet, or you're trying to get on tethering, you're trying to get on something. You can't even get anything through your phone. So I kind of just asked the city manager, and he said, Kim, We can't even make calls out of our offices, City Hall offices sometimes because the connectivity is that bad.
I tried to upgrade the internet service. They said, sure, you could upgrade, you can pay X amount of dollars. I went through all the scenarios and I got fiber and still only provided 30 megabytes of service. And so even though it was fiber, it was not adequate.
Our speeds, if we were lucky, we would get like 2 to 10 megs in speed for our company. I was paying for 3-4 different internet connections from the same provider to just be able to get more, and it would constantly, one would go down, so we'd jump on another one, then we'd jump onto our cell phones and be tethering. Yeah, it was a constant battle.
Holy smokes, this is what you call unserved America.
We explored our options. We put out a request for proposal.
We came up there and we had negotiations, or we're just talking about what this looks like, what the deal would look like.
We had already visited with another company and said, hey, we give them permission to come. But since we're open-minded, we want to look at this, another option. Utopia is another option we felt good about. We talked about 2 or 3 times the city council. We already had a public hearing on it.
We went up there for the vote.
The Utopia question was on the ballot.
And we're all sitting in the audience and all the city council are sitting there. And then all these suits come in.
And it was the Utah Taxpayers Association.
And they said, well, can we speak to tell our side of the story of why the taxpayers' money shouldn't be used here?
Who have you talked to? Which one of our residents have we not heard from? Because we felt pretty confident it was as close to unanimous, as you can get. And he said, oh, I haven't talked to any of your taxpayers. We're the Utah Taxpayers Association. And I was a little confused by that.
And you could all see them sit down and go, but, and they were like, there are no public comments at this meeting from the city.
They desired to speak, and I had indicated to them that they could not speak in the open meeting because we'd already had a public hearing. They hadn't signed in to speak, therefore I didn't give them permission to speak in a public meeting. As a council, we discussed the pros and cons. We listened to the presentation again as far as what it would do.
So they went to the vote.
And the vote was unanimous to grant to Utopia that contract as well.
After that meeting that night, there was a lot of conversations in the hall. And these suits were talking to the mayor.
It's an interesting concept why the VIPs in the state would show up.
They're being like, well, you just don't understand the technology. You don't understand 5G. You don't understand the taxpayers' risk you're putting at.
Their interest was in stopping Utopia from being here as well.
They were throwing a lot of things at him.
Don't tell me something that's not quite correct.
I've never seen you come into my city hall and you're sitting here telling me what I can do in my city.
And after I told him what I knew, I said, what else do you want to tell me? He didn't have much else to say.
We had a point of contact the entire time. People would call, say, hey, my yard got dug up, or what about my driveway? Every installation was videoed. They would come back and say, well, this is what it looked like before we installed, this is what it looked like after, let's take care of it. No questions asked, no problem. I couldn't have imagined that it would have been built out as smoothly as it went.
We finished Morgan City January to February of 2020.
And I do remember that because that's right when the pandemic started.
I learned about COVID from the news. And Utah was still not really having any cases. So I was looking at it, but I wasn't even thinking about it in the ways that it was going to affect Utopia. Because we were in a meeting here with one of our ISPs. 2 days later, I got an email and said, that person in this room had COVID. Then that became real. For the first time in history, broadband providers became essential workers. And then you have the influx of people calling. When you're a telecommunications company and you're going into people's houses in a pandemic, that gets very sticky. Luckily, the spirit of Utopia, we'll figure it out. We're gonna get in these people's homes and get these people connected. The biggest cities in this country do not have the connectivity that Woodland Hills, Utah, with 300 to 400 homes has in it.
My dad lives just up the street from me. He's been diagnosed with Parkinson's, lost my mom this year. He's lost the use of the left side of his body.
And that would have been a real struggle. But he's on Utopia now. He's fast. We've got cameras all through his house. I just whip out my phone, look up, I see if he's out of bed, I see if he's, what room he's in, see if he's okay. And those kind of things to do here, that's really comforting. That's probably where the internet's most important to me, not whether or not I can stream Netflix.
You know, when we look at this, we're talking everything. Schools, utilities, smart city applications, telehealth. You know, there's so many parts of your community that benefit from connectivity outside of just people getting better broadband at home. And all of those stakeholders are important. These cities that we work with, they're trying to figure out, well, why are we in this? Are we here just to create a new monopoly? Or is this an opportunity for us to do better this time? Let's get it right this time.
West Valley City is the second largest city in the state. We have a population of about 150,000 people. We have been able to attract multiple large-scale global businesses based on this fiber network, and the reason we could is because no one else had it. The residents of West Valley benefit significantly from having fiber connectivity to their homes. That is the great divide closer. Having the UTOPIA network has given our residents the ability to chase the American dream. As a member city, we've been thrilled to see the growth in UTOPIA, and we've been excited to offer this great opportunity to our sister cities around the state.
There was a time where there was one stoplight in all of St. George. And now, I'm not going to try to count because there's a lot. I think people are still trying to come to grips with the growth that's happening here.
Southern Utah it's booming.
When I bring people into town, they fall in love with Santa Clara. You have a lot of upper class homes and upper class people here, and at the same time, the jobs here, I think, haven't kept pace with that. They can't make the means to get the median home price here. They're going to need that super high speed, able to transmit video and Zoom calls, and be able to communicate. It's all about communication.
Politicians are hearing from their constituents that they need more, and the city took it upon themselves to find a partnership.
It's been talked about for a while, trying to do something about the internet connectivity, because they just were not happy about it. They had gone to local cable companies, I was told, and said, hey, please come in, do something, because we need better connections here. You have that situation where people were asking for something, so they were looking to Utopia.
It's not that we're the only people that they're looking at. It is very much a vetting process of which they issue an RFP, and we respond to the RFP and say, this is what we can bring to their community.
As far as pushback, I didn't see it as much from the residents as I did from the cable companies, from the phone companies. That's where the pushback really came from. Now, Santa Clara said, we've given you a chance, we're going to try this. Utopia comes in and says, okay, we're going to bring fiber optic to every address in the city.
There's no digital equity issue on the side of access. You have, the affordability part, and then you have the equipment part that is also something we're always working on of how we can deal with those situations better. The first leg to the three-legged stool, they always say, is access. We are bringing access we pass every single home.
Interestingly, the other companies, they're coming the other direction and saying, okay, well, we'll do it too. And so what's happening in Santa Clara, they're drilling all these holes. Are they going to come through? I think you can ask some people locally who've heard these promises for years that they might be a little hesitant to believe these promises are actually going to be kept. And I think that's where the hole will be for Utopia to come through. So there's a lot of uncertainty here.
This is an industry that has let the industry dictate what the customer needs, and we have to switch that conversation.
You all are here courtesy of a bunch of investors who believed in what Utopia and, at the time, Bozeman Fiber could do. You'll see Kim wandering around here.
I was always an outcast as a kid. It's almost like, as somebody said earlier, you have a chip on your shoulder, if you will. And I think everybody in this organization, I kind of feel that attitude. And I think it's just something that we believe in the people who started this. We are here to announce that we are lighting up the first residential customers on the Yellowstone Fiber Network. So I think it starts at the top and it flows all the way down of why we're doing this and why we're here.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We're not only just connecting Bozeman, we are connecting Gallatin County. That is bringing everybody into the digital economy.
Farmers now are very progressive, and I think they understand the value of fast and reliable internet.
They can bring the latest technology to have better crops, better yields, more healthy animals. I mean, the opportunity to feed the world is enhanced by our broadband. And so to get it out to them is essential, and it will take a little bit of time, but we will get out to them. In 3 years, people are gonna forget who brought it or what brought it, but our town is gonna be a much better place. Montana will be a better place for what we're doing today.
We are growing into so many cities. We are putting more on your plate than you've ever had it. There's some days I look at you and I'm like, it's gonna be okay, guys, it's gonna be okay.
Like, I grew up in a small farm town in Idaho. We had dial-up pretty much till I left for college because I lived out in the sticks, and like, if I would have had access to broadband growing up, like, I feel like I would have been able to do, like, I would have had access to so much more. Like, the internet opens up a whole new world, and having access to that and being able to learn all you can is just an amazing gift that we're giving to people.